There we go. Good morning, good morning, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning.
It's a little bit chilly out today.
That's freezing outside.
When I was a kid, my parents lived in Alberta for a few years. I was living there too. And minus 15 was like a nice balmy day up there, you know? Like, minus 25 was like kind of your normal average January temperature. And the one year I was living there, they actually had to close school for a week because the average daily high was minus 40. That's cold enough that if you spit, your spit freezes before it hits the ground. Depending on how tall you are, I guess. So yeah, it doesn't usually get this cold in these parts, you know. Did you know that this region is referred to as the Banana Belt?
What is that?
It means this is basically the warmest part of Canada that exists, with the exception of British Columbia. It's also like one of a very small number of regions in Canada that has a mild enough climate to support fruit growing as an industry. Most other parts of Canada are too cold for this type of agriculture we do. And it's interesting because like if you go up the mountain, it's not true anymore. Well, we are up the mountain.
Yeah.
But down the mountain, you can grow fruit, but up the mountain, it's too cold. So we're like right on the edge. Yeah, if you have occasion to travel down into the Niagara Peninsula at any point, you'll notice that a lot of the agriculture over there has been given over to grape farming.
Is that for winemaking?
Yes, for winemaking specifically. It turns out that because it's so darn cold here, there's actually a unique agricultural product in this area that you can't get anywhere else. You can't produce this anywhere else in the world. It's called ice wine. And basically what happens, right, you have the grapes which grow on the vine, and you don't pick them in the fall, you just leave them on the vine. You allow them to freeze in the winter, you harvest the grapes frozen, and then you make the wine from those. And it's it's like a really, really concentrated, almost syrupy kind of wine. It's interesting, but it's also really crazy expensive, as you can imagine. But yeah, this is client side. So, we continue our journey. Today, this week, it is our objective to cover CSS and CSS animations. It's a bit of a dry topic, at least the front half is a bit dry, so I'll try to, moisten it up for you guys. So, essentially, we are laboring under the impression that the HTML and CSS course, despite being the course on HTML and CSS, does not go into some important details of how CSS works. And the purpose of this week, 1 week in this course, is given over to attempting to deepen your understanding of CSS, excuse me, because that's a useful thing to do. So it is true that a great deal of CSS work is the stuff that's sort of automated away in the adoption of frameworks. However, let me tell you how frameworks work, right? In order to make the coding easy, frameworks encode a bunch of design decisions for you, right? When it comes to, back-end stuff, they make a lot of decisions about how the back-end is supposed to work. This is, perhaps entirely fair, because in the case of back-end stuff, you really shouldn't be going out on your own and creating your own security policy. You should be following the security policies laid down by people who know what they're talking about, right? In the case of CSS, much of work in frameworks has to do with the sort of Lego-style assembly of pre-written, pre-configured modules. However, anything that you get that's made from pre-built components is going to look like it's made from pre-built components without at least an excessive amount of customization. If you're customizing these frameworks sufficiently heavily, it's actually more straightforward to work in the base language, which is CSS. So, this is why we are going to cover CSS to a greater degree of depth than you received in HTML and CSS. I have heard that there are good jobs for expert CSS programmers. Now, you have to be really good, right? But CSS is a thing you can do for your career if you want to, right? Now, this is also true of pretty much every other language as well, right? It doesn't really matter what language you pick to be like your one language of focused study, if that's the route you want to go. If you upskill in a particular language to the point where you are an expert, you can normally hold down a job in that particular thing. Like, you can be well paid for any one language, even really, really old, crusty ones, right? The typical example that I give is COBOL. How many people have heard of COBOL? What is COBOL?
COBOL?
Yeah.
Is a programming language, I believe.
Yes. You know anything about it?
No, I just heard of it.
Yeah. Have you heard at least that it's really, really old?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Fanshawe College, which is located in London, actually does coursework on COBOL, despite the fact that COBOL is a language which I believe derives from the 60s. I think it's from the mid to late 60s, something in there. Let me show you a little bit of what COBOL looks like from a kind of a, this is what a COBOL program looks like. Wild, right? Look at all those words. And you thought Java was a verbose language, eh? So,
Well, I never thought Java was complicated.
yeah, but it takes a long time to say anything in Java, right? But take a look at this. Add 20 to first number. How's that for an add operation for you? Right? So what is the purpose of COBOL? This was a language that was designed specifically so that you could use the linguistic side of your brain to write a program. It's supposed to look like English sentences, right? So where do they still use this thing, this ancient relic? This is the back end of most bank servers. Like, currently existent bank servers, the ones that are still in use today. Now you can imagine that bank servers need updates, and they need bug fixes, and they need security patches. Particularly, they need security patches. So, what's a bank going to do? Are they going to take their existing code base and hire someone who knows COBOL to modify it? Or are they going to throw the whole thing out, replace the entire guts of their database system in a software project that probably will fail and will probably cost them gazillions of dollars and many, many customer complaints, right? Reminding you that the bank industry, basically its reputation lives or dies on the stability of its own transactions, right? If your bank like messes up a transaction on you twice, you're looking for a new bank, right? So yeah, they just keep the same old legacy code ticking over year after year after year after year. All of the people who originally knew COBOL back in the day are either retired or dead, right? So learning how to program an ancient language like COBOL can actually be a path to a fairly stable career. People still need people to code in this stuff, right? Programming languages don't die, right? They're only superseded. But yeah, so anyway, why am I talking about that when we're talking about CSS? Because it's kind of like the general, well, do we even need to be learning this because, this language has been, to some degree superseded. And it's like, yes, yeah, you should still learn it, particularly in the case of HTML and CSS, because they really are the base languages for all web design. So, CSS then. Unfortunately, a great degree of this module document is overlap with previous semesters stuff, so I'm going to focus on the new, assuming you already have a decent handle on the old. So, if everybody could please open up your Word or your IDE of choice, VS Code or Notepad++, normally. Unfortunately, both of those are accessible through Apps Anywhere. You'll find out why my password is so long when you take server side with me. So, good. We're going to make ourselves a little HTML page. I'm going to omit some of the usual niceties in the interests of time. Also, I don't believe Notepad++ supports Emmet abbreviations, so, or at least I don't know what the keyword is, or the shortcut is. Another thing you're never supposed to do, putting a style block in that's actually a style block. So let's make heading CSS stuff. Let's put a div in there. Another div. Another div. There we go. Some text. The text does not really matter. That'll probably be enough. Okay, so it goes. You want to save that somewhere to your computer. Index.html. And then let's open that up, and there we have it. So I'm going to just quickly apply a quick little style element so that we can see where the divs are. That's always a useful thing to do when you're designing the layout. There you go. So far so good? Have we all got that so far? Thumbs up if you've got that. All right. That's most of you anyway. So, we're going to talk about more advanced forms of selector first off the bat. So, CSS selectors are a general mechanism which is not just used in CSS. Once we get to JavaScript, CSS selectors are also used to pull references to items in the page into our JavaScript using the query selector method. So, a good solid understanding of CSS selectors will also contribute to your facility with JavaScript. Make sense? So, there are quite a few different types of CSS selectors that you did not necessarily go through, the advanced ones. Let's see them now. So, we all know how to select by name, element name, by ID, and by class, right? You will also have studied hover, right? You guys remember hover? Yeah? Did you know that hover is actually one in a whole category of pseudo class selectors? So, A comprehensive list can be found at W3 schools. Right at the bottom, pseudo classes. So, in addition to hover, we have lots and lots and lots of these things. We have such things as active, the active link, any link, which is a link with that has an href component, checked. On checkboxes, if the checkbox is checked, you can pull that out with a pseudo class, right? There's a lot of these. I won't go through all of them. But perhaps one that's sort of interesting. These things even touch the DOM, right? First child selects the element that is the first child of its parent. So for example, if you are selecting an unordered list, the first child of the unordered list would be so what is a child? Oh, the class is as frosty as the day is. Well, I want everybody to shake off the icicles. All right, shake off the icicles. What is the child of a DOM object? How do we define that? Yes?
I believe it would be a child A object that has properties that tie in with the DOM object. Whenever the DOM object changes, the child changes.
What you have said is true, but it could be expressed more simply. In an HTML file, any child object is a thing that's inside of another thing, right? So, with respect to a list, unordered list, ordered list, whatever you like, what are the objects inside of the list? Yes?
Like li elements?
That's right, the list items. So, if I have a pseudo class which selects the first child, what am I selecting?
The first element.
The first element, which is?
The first li element.
That's right. The first bullet in a list of in a bulleted list, the first number in a list of numbers is what you get when you select first child. You need to start thinking about an HTML page this way. You need to start thinking in terms of the relationships between elements if you are to be effective programmers of JavaScript. Yes?
Just a quick question. That works with any child, right? Not just for a list. Like, say if you have a bunch of divs,
Yes.
you select the first div.
Absolutely. In fact, we can try it out right now. Let's take one of our divs, say the first div. Let's drop in a paragraph here. Put 3 in. I'm just going to copy some more text. That text will be a few sentences from the brothers Karamazov, which, by the way, is the greatest book that's ever been written. That's a long sentence. That is quite a long sentence. Oof. That's okay. Because this has been translated, I can always blame the translator for any flaws in the book, right? So, There we go. Our first div, ooh, is that not inside the div? Did I make a boo-boo? I did. There we go. See, that's why it's useful to view where the div lines are, right? Because if you make a small mistake, you can catch it just through easy visual inspection, right? I don't recommend leaving these in the final version, but in like your draft, this would be like one of the last things you remove when you're going from your draft version of your website to like the final produced product, right? So let's say we have div first child, color green. Did I spell it correctly? Let me try this. Background color green.
Sir,
Yeah.
I think you've got a semicolon at the first div on the end. After the after the curly bracket.
After the curly brace?
After
Where?
curly brace on the first div, should there be a semicolon?
Here you mean?
Yeah.
I don't believe so. Let's see here. No, I believe the semicolons go inside here. Let's see here. If we do it without this, does that work? Yes, it does. Why is Oh, okay. I had it backwards. See, this is the sort of fun of games you get into when you're doing like live examples. Read the documentation. Actually, it selects the item if the item itself is a first child. It doesn't like translate a reference from an object to the first child of the object. So what we're trying for then is paragraph. There we go. There you go. And there is the first child of each div highlighted. See, before, if I had done it with div, none of these divs are the first child of body. The first child of body is this heading. But if I were to remove the heading, then suddenly the first div is highlighted. Make sense? So, there's a whole host of these pseudo-class selectors. You'll know that this is a pseudo-class selector because it has a colon, just one colon, separating the two things. So far, so good? Any questions? No? Okay. So, let's move on to pseudo-elements. My goodness. So, syntactically, the main difference between pseudo-elements and pseudo-classes, we select pseudo-elements using two colons rather than one colon. in a lot of respects, they do something fairly similar to a pseudo-class. Pseudo-classes feel like they have a little tiny bit of JavaScript behind them, right? Some of them are even spoofing actions, such as the hover event. But with pseudo elements, we're talking more portions of the page and not actions, right? So, for example, my favorite is first letter. So what is the first letter? It's actually just literally the first letter of a paragraph, right? So, for example, you know how in books it's fair, you guys know books, right? You take a bunch of words, you print them out on paper, you bind them with thread or something, and you sell that as a product, right? That's a book.
I have a whole collection of them.
You do? Oh man, that's surprising.
Yeah, I still read.
I was given to believe that young people don't know what books are anymore. So, do you guys know what radio is?
I know radio.
Yeah, you know radio? How many people know what radio is? Okay. Not everybody put their hands up. Some people perhaps are not paying attention though. No, I'm just funning with you. The radio is how ancient people used to listen to musical acts such as the Beatles and their lead singer Mick Jagger.
Even more ancient is how TV was first created.
Oh yeah? TVs are kind of actually, like, how a TV works in terms of electronics is kind of interesting, but unfortunately not for the moment. So, first letter. If you want to style the first letter of your paragraph differently to, give the illusion that you're, a book, this is how you might do it. You could even do the first paragraph in a set of paragraphs. First child, first letter, and then, what's the thing to increase font size again? I forget. Font size. Oh, that's easy enough. Make it like, 30 point. And there you go. You can increase the font size of just the first letter of a paragraph, which is, kind of handy if you want to produce certain types of effects, right? Make the text a little more splashy. There's so much drivel on the internet. It's important that your drivel stand out from all the rest of it. So, there you go. Pseudo elements. Again, there's a whole host of these things. Have you ever wanted the ability to write custom CSS for places where you yourself have made a spelling mistake? You can do it. Probably that applies to rich text boxes as well. So, if you notice that in your web forms you're receiving a lot of spelling mistakes and you want to do something that says, hey stupid, you got a spelling mistake, you can just, increase the font size of all of the spelling mistakes in the document according to the browser's internal spelling engine. You want to know a secret? When I write my slides, I do it in an editor that doesn't have spell check. And it's usually fine. You know why? Because I was taught to spell, that's why. So, it's another one of those ancient skills that no longer really applies in the modern world. So I know it's a little bit tricky to remember which of these are like pseudo classes and pseudo elements, but this is actually something that's going to come up a bit later when we start talking about the C in CSS, that is, what the actual cascading rules are for CSS. One more. This isn't my zoomed in version, is it? Here we go. Zoomed in, there we go. Hopefully at back you can see this now. Attribute selectors. So, attribute selectors are, they're a much more general mechanism. Many of the pseudo classes and pseudo elements which you may use are in fact a reskinning of the attribute selector. So what does the attribute selector do? It filters page elements by elements having a particular attribute with a particular value. How do I mean? Let's say you wanted to write a specific rule that, highlighted all Rick rolls in the document, for example. You could then write a tag. Input would be replaced with the anchor tag A. The attribute you're looking for is href, and then you would have the text of the Rick roll link itself pasted here. And that way you could style specifically links that link you to a Rick roll as a CSS rule. Right? Now that's a very specific instance of it. A more commonplace way of using this, if you want to apply specific styling rules to specific inputs, like input types, right? Because we have like umpteen gazillion different input types, right? You have text inputs, you have submit buttons, you have regular buttons, you have sliders, you have numeric inputs, you have checkboxes, you have radio buttons. All of these are different input types, but they all have the same HTML element name, which is input, right? So how do you write a specific rule for one of those and not the others? Input type, and then you just specify what type of input you're writing the rule for. Does that make sense? Shall we see an example? So, it's kind of funny, you can also use this thing to like reproduce the functionality of like just class and ID selectors, right? To some extent. But let's say we had a little form here, just a little form, hanging out, not doing anything, minding its own business. I think number. It's either number or numeric. Nope, it's number. There you go. So if I wanted to apply a style to one of these, but not the other, I could say input with type equal to text background color. Someone give me a CSS color.
Navy blue.
Navy blue. This is kind of a bad choice for something we're putting on black text. Also, is that not a real? It's got a dash in it, maybe. Oh, come on, navy blue has to be a CSS color, right?
I'm pretty sure it is.
Baby blue certainly as well.
Yes, navy, not navy blue.
Just navy? Okay. Well, that makes sense. There you go, navy blue. Again, terrible color for black text. Actually, probably the worst color for black text, as I'm sure we've all been there. How many people have always struggled with the navy socks versus the black socks in the sock drawer, right? Always a struggle. So yeah, if you're using navy blue, please also change your text color to white. High contrast. Very good. But you can see, one of these boxes has become blue, the other has not, right? So there you go. Any questions? Very good. So, attribute selectors. Again, this is an extremely flexible mechanism. Combine this with the JavaScript ability to perform actions over very, very specific parts of the page. Basically, correct usage of attribute selectors, with that it's possible to save you many if statements, right? But anyway, moving along. Any questions about advanced CSS selectors? Very good. So, we now must discuss, we have no choice, cascading and style inheritance. Ooh, inheritance. That word will become the bane of your existence in Java in a few short weeks, but for the time being, we have the nice version here in JavaScript. Inheritance is an extremely poorly understood concept in programming, and the term is misapplied in many, many respects in many, many places. But, like, according to the strict Java definition of inheritance, this is not inheritance, right? The relationship between DOM elements and their child objects is not one of inheritance specifically, it's one of composition. The difference between composition and inheritance is something we will be discussing in Java, but that doesn't prevent everybody from confusing the two subjects as often as they possibly can. At any rate. So, before we venture into the subject of CSS rule cascading, which is a very nice way to say conflict resolution, I must preface it by saying this. If you find yourself having to worry about the way that CSS rules overwrite each other, it's probable that your CSS has become too complicated and you should refactor it, right? One thing that you should keep in mind is you don't have to worry as much about conflict resolution if you minimize conflicts in the first place. And minimizing conflict is not only a good strategy in programming languages, it's also a good general life strategy in my opinion. Minimizing conflict is sometimes you have to have conflict, but most of the time conflict should be avoided if possible, just for everybody's, mental health. So, conflict. How do we define conflict? In order to talk about the conflict resolution mechanism, it's important to know in what context things conflict, right? So, let's say in our HTML source, let's say we have one of these paragraphs has a class, middle. Let's say we have a general rule for paragraphs. Color is red. And let's say we have a rule for this particular type of paragraph, or paragraphs with this class, p.middle, color will be, someone give me a CSS color. Straight up blue. Straight up.
No, just blue.
There we go. So, we've got most of these paragraphs come out red. The particular paragraph that we are attacking with this class selector comes out blue. This is probably good. This is good. This is all well and good. Things are working the way that we want them to. However, in technical point of fact, we are applying two rules to this paragraph, right? Now, that deserves a little bit of examination. According to this rule, it should be red. According to that rule, it should be blue. The result is not purple, right? Which is the nominal effect of mixing blue and red. In fact, one rule has overwritten the other. Make sense? Now, this is what we mean by conflict. Two rules are writing to the same CSS property. Only one can survive, so we need some kind of dispute resolution mechanism in order to decide what color that paragraph should be. Make sense? Good. Now, let me show you this slightly more complicated example. Let's say that we, in addition to having color red, we have something, something nominal like border is 1 pixel solid. Someone give me a CSS color.
Hot pink.
Hot pink, great. I hope that works. Let's see if that works. It does. I'll make it a little bigger though. There we go. And let's add another rule here. Let's say that we're adding font. Font family. What do we got there? No, that's too much to look up. Font size. There we go. Maybe the print will just be small. Maybe a bit smaller than that, so that it's obvious. Very small print. There we go. So, something to notice here, right? This paragraph in the middle. The color is blue, so the color is deriving from this second rule. we can see that the font size is also being applied. We have tiny font. Do we have the border? The pink border, is there a pink border around that paragraph?
Oh,
Yes.
but not in the middle, like class.
No, yes. The pink border does not appear here. However, it is still applied to that element. The border color is being written here. So, this is a lot more important than you might think it is. Conflicts are not being decided at the level of rules. Conflicts are being decided at the level of individual properties. Right? The border property is being written by the first rule. There is nothing in the second rule that contradicts that, so it stands. Just because this rule is overwriting the color property, which already has been written up here, it doesn't invalidate that whole rule. It only invalidates the conflicting property. Does that make sense? Good. So this is what is meant by cascading in cascading style sheets. You can kind of think of it, you have one rule, right? And you layer another rule over top of it, and only those portions that overlap are in conflict. Does that make sense? Thumbs up? Yeah? Okay, good. If there are any questions about it, please, speak your mind. So, okay. So, hopefully now we have a well-established definition of conflict. Our next task is to decide how these conflicts get resolved. And that gets a little bit complicated. So, you may be saying to yourself, well, this one gets entered first, that one gets entered second, this one overlaps that one, that's how it works, right? Under that theory, if I remove this, all of my text turns blue, all of my font size goes small, right? So, yes. To test that theory, though, we need to put this rule before that one and see if the color comes out red.
It should turn red.
Let's see. Yes, indeed. So, when selectors are the same, it is the ordering that resolves the conflict. Okay, but as soon as I introduce that class again, as soon as I introduce that class again, we're back to the same situation we were in before. And in fact, it doesn't matter whether this is above or below, we get the same result. So the conflict resolution has something to do with the only thing that's changed, the selector, right? So, this is how it works. CSS rules have a value called selector specificity. How specific is the selector? In general, rules that are more specific win on arbitration. So, specific. We want more specific rules to beat less specific rules. So what do we mean by specific? Certainly, P dot middle is clearly more specific than P. Not only can we verify this in fact that this text is small and blue, but also we can verify that kind of using our own intuitive sense, right? This is a paragraph, all paragraphs. This is only paragraphs with the class attribute middle, right? So, according to our intuitive understanding of what specific means, that's obviously more specific, right? So, recall that there are three main things that we target with CSS rules. Elements, classes, and what's the third one?
Is it ID?
It's ID. Yes, very good. What's the symbol you use? Hashtag, yes. Although, in this context, it's not being used for hashing, so we can't call it a hashtag, right? Does anybody know what the technical term for that symbol is? I got this, I was key to almost cementing victory for my pub. Don't look it up. Good grief. I was in pub trivia at one time, and I was like the computer science person, and I knew this. So here you go. Here's some pub trivia for you. This is called Octothorpe. That's what the name of the symbol is. Why is it called Octothorpe? Because it has 8 little spines on it, I guess. It has 8 thorps. Each one of those is called a thorp, I suppose. So, with the Octothorpe character. So, IDs. So, let's establish some relations. We have elements, classes, and IDs. Through experimentation, we have determined that classes beat elements. But we don't know what the relation is between IDs and either of these two. So, according to your intuitive understanding, what is more specific? An ID or a class?
ID.
Why?
I'm the only one.
There's only one ID, that's right. Although, the only thing that's going to slap you on the wrist for repeating ID values is the HTML validator. But, you know, like the browser isn't going to reject it. With IDs, you're only supposed to have one unique ID value per, you know, let me run that the other way. Each ID value is supposed to be applied to only one element in the page. They're supposed to be unique, right? So that would necessarily make them more specific than classes, which is actually true. Now, IDs, are they more specific than elements? Surely, right? If IDs are more specific than classes, and classes are more specific than elements, then according to the transitive property, IDs are also more specific than elements. Right? That's called transitivity. It's a mathematical property. So, yes?
This is just a question, but let's say we added an inline style element, would that beat the ID or?
So, that's a good question. Let me see here. Is that addressed in here? So, yes, inline style is considered more specific than all of the rules we're talking about. So if you're using an inline style like thing, that's highest level of specificity aside from the important attribute. Important will override it, but yeah, if you like, to the extent that you should be using inline styling at all, it overrides the whole mechanism. And in fact, a lot of the reason you shouldn't use it is because it overrides the whole mechanism. But as we're going to see, when we apply CSS properties directly using JavaScript, that's essentially what we're doing, is we're modifying the inline style attribute. So JavaScript changes will also override everything we're talking about here. Make sense? Very good question, thank you. So, as we've seen, with style attributes, with selectors, we can put them together, right? We can use more than one at once. So we might have, whoa, that's interesting. Okay, we might have a paragraph. We might have paragraph.class. We might have .class on its own. We might have an ID. We might have p.class at ID. One might be inclined to say that if you have ID selected, then that's like, in theory, you're only selecting one element anyway, so you shouldn't need to go any further than that, right? But in fact, it is possible, although perhaps not useful, to say something like ID1, ID2, ID3, right? That's possible. Again, perhaps not useful. So this is the way that CSS arbitrates conflicts between rules of these styles.
Yes, question, when you said like earlier, we were doing like pseudo classes, right? Where would they go in terms of like that ranking?
Pseudo classes.
So like above the class as.
Pseudo classes count as classes. So for example, if I had this ID hover, right? That's one ID and one class,
Oh,
right? If I had P and, for example, P at first line, right? Element on its own, element plus pseudo element.
oh, I see.
Make sense?
Yeah.
So it does, it gets a little more complicated, of course. So So we have to calculate Ecke scores. Oh, except that's, okay, I'll put you at the end then. There we go. So the way that we decide what's more specific is we count. We count things, all right? So we go through our CSS selector, counting up how many of each type of thing is in the selector, right? So here I have one element and a pseudo element. Pseudo elements count as elements for determining this score. So how many elements do I have? How many classes do I have? How many IDs do I have? How about this one? How many elements do I have? How many classes do I have? How many IDs? 0?
1, 0, 0, 0. Oh, over, yeah.
Pseudo classes count as classes. And then?
1, 1, 1, 0, 0,
1,
3,
oh, this is your IDs.
1, 0,
0.
0.
Right. So we have a table now. If we have a conflict between two rules, we examine the I column first to see if one has more than the other. If they're both the same, we then go to the next column to see if we can resolve it there. Then, if we can't, we go to the next column, see if we can resolve it there. And if we can't, we then, and only then, go by the order in which they were added to the file. Right? So, for example, let's say I have a conflict between these two. Right? ID hover and P class ID. I've got 1 and 1. These are the same. So I look at the next column. C. 1 and 1. Those are the same. I look at the next column. 1 and 0. This has got a 1, so this one wins. Does that make sense? So, let's see here. How about these two? Who wins? A or B? A or B? B? Why? As one ID. Very good. How about these two? A or B?
A,
Why?
because it has the P, no?
That's right.
Yeah.
Although these are the same, this one has an element, this one doesn't, so this one wins. Even if they apply to the same items, right? What's the thing that beats everything else on the board?
PID.
The 3 IDs, that's right. What's the least high priority rule on the board?
The P.
Just the P, yeah. Very good. I think you guys get the idea. Yeah? Any questions about that? So this is what cascading in cascading style rules actually means. Make sense? Very good? Okay. So, now let's discuss style inheritance. So the concept of style inheritance is not too difficult. It doesn't involve much math. Parents share with their children is basically the concept here. So if you have a parent object and you apply styling rules to it, those styling rules will be picked up by the child objects. So, let's see here. Better to do a live example. So let's say I had a list. Put her at the top here. Unordered list. List item. Somebody name a video game.
Metroid.
Dispatch.
Metroid. Oop. Dispatch. I've never heard of Dispatch.
You've never heard of it, I'm shocked.
Very
Very recent.
Is it recent?
That's last
yes,
year, came
very
out last
recent.
year.
Yeah.
Do you know about Telltale Games?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it was
It's
made.
basically like that, yeah.
Yeah, it was made. It was actually made by people who used to work at Telltale. So.
Oh, okay. So it's kind of like a choose your own adventure kind of like
Yeah, basically.
story heavy kind of thingy.
Yeah, kind
It's
of.
effectively a Telltale game.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, pretty much.
If you had superheroes and this weird hat guy.
Oh, is this? I think I've seen the art for this thing. Yeah. Okay. I know what one you're talking about now. Yeah.
Twilight for Mac was crazy.
All right. Is that any good? Yeah? Nobody's answered. And finally, Minecraft. And I have no mouth, but I must scream.
I have the Allied Master Computer next to me.
Yeah. That's an old adventure game, which I don't even know if I recommend, because it's got like a lot of mature content. Don't give it to kids to play.
I played it, and I still would recommend it, mostly because there's no way you're gonna play it without a tutorial.
I mean, this is kind of like adventure games, though, you know? Like back in the day.
Yeah.
Um,
Hard.
Yeah. Okay. Okay, I got a different one.
Not
Star Control 2. There you go. There's a good game for you. That's also like an old DOSy kind of game. Although I think it came out in '94. Eh?
You know what? I got another one to add to that list.
Yeah?
If you wanna
Alright.
add it.
Hit me.
A little game called Neon White.
Neon White. Okay. I've never heard of this one.
This one came out like a few years back. It's basically like
platformer,
one of those
right?
speedrunner platformers.
Ah, okay.
With
Cool.
a first-person shooter in there.
Cool. Alright, that's a list. Alright. So, according to style inheritance, well, first let's, there we go. According to style inheritance, if I apply a style to the unordered list itself, it should apply itself to all of the items in that list. So UL, oh, I don't know, let's do something like background color is Alice blue, which, as we all know, is the hello world of CSS colors. Although that might actually work still if it had no items at all. So let's do just text color as purple. There you go. The unordered list itself, like presumably it does have a background, right? But it certainly doesn't have any contained text. So this actually does demonstrate that the color, although that might be a little hard to see from the back, this is purple. You know, we've applied a style property to the entire list, but it's only the child objects that have the thing that style would be applied to. And you can see that we've applied it to all of them all at the same time. Make sense? Very good. Now, if we have any rule whatsoever that touches any one of these directly, it will override the inheritance. Right? Yes?
So if one of those were a paragraph, it would override it?
Yes, yeah. But you shouldn't put paragraphs inside of lists. But yes. No, I'm thinking more something like, if we have list item first child, which should be the first item in the list, right? Hover. There you go. Color will make that orange. I'm feeling creative today. There we go. You can see that as you hover over the first element only, it turns orange. So any rule which touches the elements directly from CSS, that will override anything that's been inherited. But the inheritance relationship is still very important. Make sense? All good? Thumbs up? Awesome. So, so we have one more thing to talk about, and then we're going to have our break. And then when we come back, we'll do CSS animation. But we have to talk about something a little boring. So, one more factor which affects rule arbitration is where the rule came from in the first place. So, within the browser, CSS rules can have 3 points of origin, right? There are rules applied by us, the authors of the website. There are rules which are applied by the browser itself, and the end user has the ability to write CSS rules for the website that they have loaded locally. Make sense? 3 points of origin. These points of origin are called somewhere. There we go. Yes. Author, user, and user agent. We are author. The website designer, we are author. Custom rules that the user may enter themselves count as user rules. And the user agent is the browser. It's acting on behalf of the user. Right? So, when arbitrating conflict, if the important attribute has not been used, our rules take priority. User rules are under that, and browser rules are under everything. Unimportant browser rules are the least they'll lose every time to anything else. They're the least important rules. Does that make sense? Anything you do with CSS animation overrides anything that's not important. Right? Once you're using the important attribute, the browser's important attribute takes most priority, user after that, and we, the authors, actually get least billing. Our important attributes are the least important attributes. Important attributes, yes.
If I'm using like dark mode on my browser, where would that be in terms of like the overlay?
Dark mode on your browser, it depends on whether it's like a user, it depends on whether it's important or not, but if it's not important, it's the least important here. Which is why, like, you'll notice many websites just don't care at all if your browser is in dark mode. Like a lot of like some websites will have like a dark mode icon that you can click, right?
Yeah.
That will reliably put the thing in dark mode, but like dark mode in your browser, not necessarily so, right? Because that browser settings are down here. What comes with the website's up here, right? So, a word of caution about use of the important attribute, right? CSS rules and their interdependencies can at some point feel like the mythical Gordian knot, right? You guys know the myth of the Gordian knot? Or the legend of it? Okay. Well, there was a guy named Gord, and he had a knot. Basically, Alexander the Great rides into some kingdom, I'm not sure which, and the king of the kingdom's like, here, if you can untie this knot, you can have my kingdom. And it's like such an extremely complicated knot that it's like nobody could possibly untie that knot, right? So what does Alexander the Great do? He takes his sword and he's like, hey look, I untied your knot. I'm going to take your kingdom now. And that guy was like, well, that's fair enough. You got the sword, so there you go, here's my kingdom. CSS can feel a bit like that at times. Things can get so complicated that it's difficult to make headway, difficult to make what you want happen, right? But this is most of the time because you're not like clearly and fully understanding the rules, or you've made it a bit more complicated than it needs to be, right? At any rate, the temptation is always there to kind of slap the important attribute on something and say, this will make it work, slap, and then everything, you know, everything works. Oh look, everything works. Here's the problem though. If you make that a habit, you will forget where you've done it, right? If your solution every Friday at 4:15 to get your code working before the weekend is to slap an important attribute somewhere, see that it works, call it a day, head home for the weekend, you know, push to the repo. And you do that every Friday, very soon, almost everything in your code has an important attribute. And then you are right back in the same position you were in before, right? Except everything is now like having bad interactions with CSS animations and all kinds of nasty little things. So it's a sledgehammer, the important attribute. Do not misuse it, right? Don't overuse the power, or else the power becomes useless, right? That's also a good life lesson. And particularly, other people's important stuff overrides yours. So, you know, the whole problem of my CSS, I wrote a CSS rule and it's not working, it's not doing what I wanted to do. Your first step, of course, is to debug it, make sure it's applying to what you think it is, make sure it's writing what you think it is, make sure you haven't made spelling mistakes, make sure you haven't forgotten a semicolon, all of those things, right? But then if it's still not working, the next thing to do is to try to understand which rules are applying to what thing, right? This is why it's important to take a look at your properties pane. You've got a whole styles thing right here, right? Let's say we're looking at, we've selected, let's see here. This is in first div, we want this guy, right? Oh look, it tells you what rules have been applied and which rules are being overridden by which other rules. Or, at the very least, it'll tell you which properties are being overridden, right? This is invaluable in debugging CSS rule conflicts. Make sense? And finally, going to your computed style. Your computed style is your styling for the element after all of the arbitration has occurred, right? You get your very long list of literally all CSS properties, but you can see that color is blue, for instance, right? Does this make sense? Any questions? Yes?
Is the browser just converted like to RGB?
Yeah, so yeah, it's representing things in terms of their actual pixel value instead of in terms of their designated CSS names, but like, you know, all the CSS name is it's a mapping to these values anyways, right? So, yeah. Make sense? That's a clearer view of the internal representation of CSS, right? So, any questions? All right. In that case, let's take a 15-minute break, shall we? Please be ready, or, you know, yeah, 15 minutes. Let's please be ready to resume class at 10:43 this morning. Thank you very much, and I'll see you in a few minutes. There we go. So, CSS animation. So, just be careful of the tripod, please. Thank you.
Oh.
There we go. So, kind of a horrible room to videotape in. The angles are just all wrong, you know. My apologies. So, animation then. I will begin with some opening remarks on the subject of animation itself, because when we are talking about CSS animation, we are speaking about animation in a very particular sense. So, can anybody in the room tell me how animation something is moving? I need a little bit more. Yes?
Animation works by essentially having a point A and a point B, and then keyframes in between those 2 points in order to get you from point A to point B. Usually in traditional animation, this will be like frames in between, but there's also things like tuning in which you can just manually slide one thing over to the other place, which is also just keyframes at the end of the day, but it all just comes back to keyframes.
Yes. The only question is your keyframe every frame, or are you computing intermediate frames? Right? So you've done some animation, it sounds like. So, in principle, the concept of animation is that you can trick the brain into thinking that an image is moving by presenting the brain a sequence of images which are slightly different from each other. Right? One of my favorite examples of this anybody hear of a zoetrope?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, we learned about that in movies and culture.
Oop, no, back. There we go. This is the one I usually show. So, this is an ancient device known as a zoetrope. This was an early form of animation. Slits in the side of the drum provide a view of the image on the inside of the drum. As you rotate the drum, you can see, through the constrained perspective of the slit, a series of images of the horse, making the horse appear to gallop. This is the principle of animation. From early mechanical devices, we then progressed to films. All film projected movies of any kind are a form of animation. We were able to take a sequence of photographs and play them back in sequence at a particular speed, which gave the impression of playing back a series of photons collected by the camera over time. So, animation technique and technology progression is mostly the story of the early 20th century until we reach the point of the introduction of the computer. With computers, we could begin to calculate frames of animation rather than having explicit drawn pictures of frames or photographs corresponding to frames. This was the birth of so-called keyframe animation. So the way that keyframe animation works, you have a timeline. On that timeline, you set specific points where you decide what the properties of the thing you're animating are. That might be the image, that might be, we're doing CSS animation, so CSS properties. You decide what the properties are at these fixed points in the animation, and the computer calculates each intermediate frame. This is keyframe animation, also known as tween animation, not because it has a particular affinity for tweens, but because this is the part in between, or the tween, right? So, when we are animating in CSS, we are animating according to a keyframe animation style. Because I'm a literal dinosaur, I of course have a certain degree of affection for the old modes of animation. I generally believe that tween animation has contributed more bad animation to the general pool of animation than was ever conceived of or possible before the advent of tween animation. You guys want to know what like my the animation which I believe is like the worst animation I've yet seen is? I have small children, and so you know I occasionally see what they're watching, and you know what my wife puts on for them, and we try to be pretty careful about it, you know. But there's this show now that's like the Cat in the Hat, like Dr. Seuss kind of stuff, and like Dr. Seuss was never meant to be educational, you know, but they've taken it in the like a distinctly educational kind of like Magic School Bus-esque kind of way, and like, man, the animation in that is so bad. It's so bad. Like it's kind of almost impossible to describe without just like go and watch it and you'll see what I mean. It's the worst animation I've ever seen. Yeah.
Have you seen the animation for One Punch Man Season 3?
I've not, no.
It is absolutely horrible.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame too, because the first season was pretty good, you know.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. The first season did also have a specific team, like a team
Yeah.
of fans of the manga,
Yeah.
to animate specifically for Season 1. So.
It's my general opinion that no television show whatsoever should be permitted to have a third season.
Unless it's Mob Psycho.
Well,
House season 3 was like probably the best season.
okay, well, a couple of particular instances apply, but you know, perhaps if you actually look into like the back end of things, maybe like the first and the second season were actually somehow the same season, so the third season was the best season, you know. But this is a law that's also true of video games. Normally it's the second game in a trilogy that's the good one, you know. So, anyway, so CSS animation. In order to set up and create CSS animation, what we essentially are building, what we are constructing, is a timeline of CSS rules. When we are constructing the timeline, we do this without caring about what objects we are applying the animation to. Applying an animation to a series of objects is a separate step from creating the animation itself. Okay? So, if everybody could please open up VS Code or whatever it is you're coding in today, and follow along with Prof. So, let's make ourselves a nice little HTML. I'm going to skip some of the usual niceties. Give you a moment to get that down. Oh, can you see this in the back, or do you want me to make it a little bit bigger?
A little bigger.
This room is deeper than it gives the impression of being, eh? We're actually a fair distance from the board all the way back there. So, but you know, as we know, first row is best row. So, you know. So, the first thing that we need to do is declare a keyframe animation. keyframes, you then give it a name. Perhaps animation 1. Everything inside this is now the animation. So, coming back to our timeline, in many cases, if you've used an animation system before, the particular points that these keyframes are located at will be points in time, right? Time is one of the things that we are not dealing with at this level. As a matter of fact, we have two styles. You either have one keyframe at the beginning and one at the end. This is the simplest style. This will be, the first one is called from and the last one is called to. Otherwise, you designate the percentage of the time through the animation that the keyframe occurs at. Question at the back, sir.
Shouldn't that be in a body?
Yes, but I'm skipping some of the usual niceties. It'll still work like this. Head and body are really just for like organization, you know? Don't submit an assignment like this. Do as I say, not as I do. Except for now where you are doing as I do. Okay. So, let's do a simple one. From to. We then use curly braces to write ordinary, regular CSS rules. So, for example, from background color is equal to red. No, give me something interesting. CSS color, anybody? Gold. Gold. Nice, love it. Solid gold. Two, what color should we make this?
Yellow.
Yellow? I think I'd like something a little less gold than yellow. Something with a little more like transition, so it's a good example. Purple. I hear green, I hear purple. Both of those are very, very, very run-of-the-mill colors. Come on, I need something with a little pizzazz.
Orange. Blue.
Wait,
Navy blue.
baby blue? Okay, sounds good. Baby blue. Now, so we have our animation. Oh, I forgot the semicolons. And I've used equals. I hate CSS so much. There we go. So, within these curly braces, you're writing a CSS rule with all of the regular syntax of a CSS rule. Now, the time has come to apply this animation to an element of the page, in this case, our div. So, to apply a CSS animation, we need a CSS rule to apply it. So we write our selector, div, in this case. We then have a number of special properties which apply the animation. In fact, let's make this div hover. There we go. So, animation dash name. You can imagine, in a sufficiently complicated CSS file, you will have several animations. It's necessary to refer to the correct one point A. Animation name, animation duration. This is a very important one. How long will this animation take? Measured in seconds. Let's say 2.5 seconds for this one. Animation, iteration count. The number of times the animation is to repeat. You can also specify infinite for an infinitely repeating animation. But for now, let's say 4. Sound good? Very good, very good. And, since we're applying some rules to the div, let's make it a little bit chunky to click on. Give it a little bit of substance. There we go. Shall we see how this works? Ooh, should give it a border too. All right. So, you ready for the fireworks? Hover. Oh, it seems baby blue isn't a color. Let's see here.
Try navy again.
Oh, we already did that one.
Light blue? I know that's a color in there.
Light blue, yeah. It has to be one. Does it use like a dash? Nope. Well,
Maybe it's all just one word. For light blue, please.
I guess I'm just gonna do the RGB values. I'm gonna.
And then we save it as a CSS file.
Does that not work? Ah, fine. Light blue. Good grief. Try again. Really? Still? CSS colors. Yeah, baby blue isn't actually a CSS color. How about light blue? Oh, there we go. Was it the semicolons that were throwing me off? Maybe it was the semicolons. Let's try again. It was the semicolons. Okay. Those semicolons are redundant. Please remove them. There you go.
So just get rid of the semicolons, basically.
Yeah, get rid of these semicolons at the end.
Where? All of them?
No, the ones inside are good. The ones here, those ones, get rid of those.
Oh, I never put them in.
Ah, well, there you go. Is baby blue? Baby blue is still not a color, though. There we go. Oop. So, animation. So, a couple of things to note. Number one, animations have access to the full suite of CSS properties. All of them. Right? So you can move this thing around the screen. You can do fun little stuff like this. Border dash radius 0 pixels to border radius 10 pixels. And you can see it curves it as you go on. Yes?
Nothing's showing up for me.
Okay.
Me too.
I will come around and I will take a look. But yes, one more thing to note. Once our 4 iterations of the animation have been performed, you'll notice that the thing returns to its previous state. Make sense? So, another important rule. In order to calculate a transition between 2 properties, the rules inside of the animation themselves must conflict. So, for example, if I throw color in here, oh, actually that did work. Some of them do, some of them don't. If it has a default value, then oh, that's a shame. Okay, all right. Anyway, I'm gonna take a look at you guys' code. Let's take a look at your code.
In no particular order.
You should do it in a the browser. You should do it in like a file.
In a file?
Yeah.
Okay, try it now.
I don't know if it's gonna like work here.
No. It usually works, Professor.
Well, but I don't know if it's gonna work here.
Okay, let me try and yes.
Same with you.
Okay, I'll copy that one.
Oh, I'm having a problem. I don't know why I'm going to do the CSS file. And I'm having a bunch of errors.
Oh, because you named it .html.css?
No, yeah. I tried on it.
مش لازم نعمل نسميه index صح عادي أي اسم صح؟
Yeah, it's okay. I didn't know it is an HTML file.
It is, but it's Java file, so CSS.
Yeah.
That's why I just tried
Well,
changing the name.
Errors in VS Code are one thing. Try loading it in the browser anyway.
So yeah, that's what happened
I see. Oh well.
It's pretty good.
Oh. Any?
Oh, there's the problem.
Yep. Greetings.
I'm honestly not sure what is working.
Well,
Yeah, I need to do that.
the div here, you don't have any rules affecting the width and the height, so it would be
I tried to work with it, I just not, but it didn't work.
Okay.
It also tried.
Oh, yeah, background color is correct, that's true. Oh, that is,
Oh, then you just set a separate thing in there?
yeah,
I know how to do that,
yeah.
but it wasn't, oh, now the text bubble wants to work.
Yeah, there you go.
There we go.
Alright.
Now it's working. I don't know what was wrong with it before, it's the same thing I had.
Mine is still something that's, so I have mine set to do animation on cover, but not with the,
It's you have it on a class, on a pseudo class, you need to have a whole in there, so. Yeah. Did you save it?
I just run it.
Yeah. Oh, you're modifying top. In order to do that, you have to set the display to absolute or relative.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
yes. No, it's still
اشتغل.
make it absolute.
It's only that. See if we can get something up at the top working, and that's the verification of that where you've got the.
This was working before I made it a cover, like it was working with the animation, it was just like going and find something. But now that it requires the user to do something, it's not.
Interesting.
Let me just undo everything.
Yeah.
This is me playing around. I had to figure out how to do it.
Oof.
اشتغل على طول على البي اس كود.
Oh, I might have been using display.
Now it's not working again.
But that's the problem, it's like how to get top. The animation looks fine to me. All right. So,
Professor.
I understand. So, I am going to set you 2 tasks. All right? I would like you to produce for me CSS animations. You can do one or both of these, whichever you like. But this is a bit where I'm like walking around the room and helping people with code. Task 1. Create a CSS animation which cycles through the colors of the rainbow. That's right, you guessed it.
Called it.
Text or background is fine. I care not for such trivialities. Task 2. Create an animation. Which causes selected text to shake like it's seen a ghost. And part B, do this for each character in a word separately. There you go. Some CSS animation tasks for you. Let's work on those, and I will come around and take a look at people's problems that they're having. We'll work on this for a few minutes, and then at the end of class I'll take it up. Yes?
So what version of
Oh.
Yeah, because I want the maximum of the level.
Which site does
So are we making Japanese or US version?
You've kind of hit the point where if you're asking questions like this, you're probably doing pretty well on the assignment. It matters not to me. 32, 35, either way.
So, assuming for what, it's just gonna be multiple categories?
Oh! Yeah, actually, one moment. You're going to have to use percentages. So, your timeline should look like 0%, 5%, 10%, you know, etc.
Like,
down to 100%.
like how much of the animation is done? Is that like a percentage? Is that it?
Yeah, it's like your percent through your timeline, right? So if you have a keyframe right in the exact middle, it becomes 0, 50, and 100%, right? Make sense?
So just put that in the animation duration? Because
You replace to and from with the percentages.
oh, okay. For
Yeah.
the middle ones, not the beginning?
No, for the beginning and the end one too.
Oh, okay.
All percentages. Now, you know, if you're, you know, one note about this, all right? In order to smoothly transition, because like the animation wraps around from 100% back to 0%, right? In order to have this transition be smooth, the 0% and the 100% like rules must be the same. They must be the exact same rules. That way, it will calculate a smooth transition back to its initial state. Otherwise, it'll do that, you know, jerk transition, flip, transition, flip, right? So that's how you fix that. Make sense? Okay. There you go. You guys want me to put the code that I had on the board back up on the board? Okay, I'll do that then. Oh man, that means people won't be able to read them. Everybody take a picture of this with your phone. You have a question? Or you want me to come see something?
Quick question. Am I doing it right?
If you remove that from line, then yes. Line 16, if you just delete that entirely.
Okay.
Much happier with the syntax now.
Yes. Thank you.
You have a question.
So it's gonna be like 6 colors involves 100%. Yeah,
7
what would be
colors.
like a good percentage for each frame?
Well, you actually have 7 individual colors if the last one is the same as the first one, so 100 divided by 7. Math. Did you get it working?
Yeah.
Nice. Including pink, nice. Does it include pink?
Technically it's violet, but it's coming out as
Oh. Yes. Yeah, that is a violet. Yeah. I think that it considers like the rainbow violet to be purple, even
Yeah.
though violet is like the correct term for it.
pink. Yeah.
They're associating violet with the flower violet. I had an art teacher in high school who said, "There is no such thing as purple. There is only violet." Yeah. So, good. Good. Yes.
So I overheard it's not supposed to be good at 5.
Well, you won't get through all of the colors. I mean, you're kind of like effectively doing the same thing here, you know? You're just, if you want it to be like the rainbow as it's presented in the spectrum, that's not quite it.
I was searching it up online and I came across a completely green.
Oh,
I'm not sure if it's an actual CSS rule.
no, this is AI overcomplicating the issue.
Okay.
Yeah. Just, red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple. Yeah.
I'm at
end because I couldn't find another shape to put it.
Oh, okay. You'll get rid of that flash if you make your last frame the same as your first.
But it's usually the Visual Studio.
Ah, you're doing the rainbow, the inverse rainbow.
Are you doing it manually or are you just inversing the animation? Because you can also do that.
I first did it inverse, so I did through the rainbow and then back again. But I'm just gonna have to I know right.
Yeah. So just this next one.
Professor,
Go. Yep. Pretty good.
okay. I did all the colors and then I did the percentage, 12 and a half.
Very good.
And I can do the 8. So. All good?
Yeah.
Yes. I need to do the other test too, right?
Yes. Yeah. Task 2 is a little bit harder.
Yeah, but how do I make the sentence shape?
Well, to make something shake, you have to modify its position. Right? But remember, we're still dealing with CSS rules here. So, in order to modify something's position, you have to do a couple of things in the CSS to allow you to modify its position. Right? You have to set position to relative. And then I think you also have to set display to block.
Okay.
So yeah. Yes.
Can we add another keyframe to the style block?
How many keyframes?
Like add like
Like
another
that.
one, so like this is one animation, and then just create another one below it. Am I allowed to do that?
Oh yeah, please. Yes, yes. Naturally. That's the whole point of giving them names.
Alright, I think I got it, sir.
What did you think?
Okay, okay. I see. Very good.
Professor, do you mind just give me like a hint how to do that? Because I want to do it from my mind without this thing. Like,
So,
not imagining.
yes. So,
Because
to make something shake, what is a shake? It's a rapid and small change in position, right? So what CSS properties do we use to change position?
not sure.
Transform.
Is it?
You could use transform.
Set position?
More simply, you can also use top and left,
Oh,
right? It's a little bit simpler. Now, to use top and left, you have to give yourself the ability to use top and left by setting position to relative and I believe display has to be in block mode. But once you've set those two, you have the ability to set this to, 5 pixels, 5 pixels. So basically, to make something shake, you want to create like a small rapid change in those values, right? So the smallness has to do with how many pixels you make the shake worth. For something like this, I think, more than 5 pixels is probably overdoing it. Quickness is something we can control with animation duration. So we don't have to bake that into our animation itself, right? Like, for example, there's no point in your animation in making the thing, like animating it in this block so that it does like, right? You animate one shake, and then you repeat it with iterations. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But when you're shaking, the test shaking as well?
Is the what shaking?
When you're shaking, the border is shaking and the test is shaking as well?
Yeah, everything. In fact, when I do my example on the board, I'm going to just do text, not, in fact, I'm going to capture some text in a span, and I'm going to shake that. Not the whole div. But if you want to work it out on the whole div, that's also fine. All that really affects is the upper rule, right? Not the animation itself. You're not going to learn anything that way. Make it work. What are you guys doing? Make it work. The shaking effect. Come on. Yeah. Yeah. Let me take a look here. Are you supposed to capitalize these? I don't know if it makes a difference. So, wait a second. Where's this being saved? Alright. Oh, yeah. Used the wrong animation name. Using the native Excel version of VS Code on the browser based on it. I don't know when, like, what is this saving? Or, like, is this text the same?
Should be.
So, yeah. Oh, K-frames. Keyframes. That will help too. Ah! There you go.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry?
How do you make this shape? I got the video of that, but it's like
I might just do one off board actually.
oh, okay, awesome.
Yeah. It seems like pretty much everybody got the rainbow effect, so you guys want a little bit more time to work on the shake effect? Yeah? Okay. A few more minutes and then I'm going to take it up on the board, okay? But to answer your question, the properties that that I would recommend trying to modify are top and left, which will allow you to control the position of the thing. Yes?
I got the shape one, but it's a little weird. Oh,
Yes. I agree. Yeah, my recommendation would be to, like, if you're just going to like a section like this, right? Try to cap it at like 5, at most 10 pixels. Also, at that scale, it's not going to show up very much. So maybe you change it so that it shows up there. More theory is to decrease your animation duration. Yeah, you can, with the amount of, yeah, you'll see it'll look very frenetic the way that it is currently. Right? But that'll look good if you,
If I close the increase one?
yeah, exactly.
So I'm assuming this is what you want for the first part of
This guy had some stuff right there.
Yo, with the ghost test, if I have the text here, would I just have to edit it here or on the keyframes?
Like to get the shaking effect?
Yeah, get the shape.
You should be able to get there just by modifying the animation.
So yeah, this is.
You might, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
you'll want to increase you'll want to decrease the duration though, to give it that kind of jumpy feel.
Alright.
Okay. I think,
So just put the X, so for this I just put the XY positions to do it?
yeah, basically. Yeah.
So I'm assuming this is what you want for the first part, which is like the whole word.
Oh yeah, that's pretty good, yeah.
And now you want it for each individual character.
Yeah.
So
That one's the challenge. You'll have to modify the HTML.
yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yes, I'm going to be doing it on the board almost immediately. So, all right. Shaky text. So So I'm going to start a new, well, okay. First let me give you the text I'm going to shake. I'm going to use a span element to capture specifically the term ghost. There we go. So, now I'm going to create the animation. So, I'm going to do this in a very specific fashion. Now, I just need to apply this animation to that span. By the way, you know how the border attribute has a contracted form where you can specify several properties at once? Animation has the same thing. But of course, because I'm teaching a class, I wanted to start out by breaking out each of the individual properties before I showed you the collection of them, right? So, you can just say animation, specify the name, shape, specify the duration, let's make it 0.4 seconds, and iteration count infinite. There we go. Let's see what we have. Oh, it's not really working. But that's okay. You can only use top and left if you apply certain properties, display properties, to the object. So let's throw in display, block, and position relative. Oh!
So you said display block relative?
Display block position relative.
So display colon position relative?
Here's the code.
Alright.
So, that's kind of a nice effect, right? But now, let's see if we can do it to each individual letter. This is going to be a little bit tedious, but here's the thing about tedious things in programming. Very often, when you're doing something tedious, it doesn't take as much time as you think it does, right? It's like, oh man, I have to do this for every single one of these. Oh man, this is so awful, right? And you know, this is the sort of thing you would write a JavaScript function for, right? But it's still useful to see, like, as a programmer, you need to move through a phase of doing everything painfully and out explicitly to get the effect you want in order to understand how to write JavaScript to do that for you, right? Otherwise, you don't know to what end you're writing your JavaScript. So, here we go. I now have 7 spans, each with their own individual IDs. This is going to be common to all of them, so I can just say span these guys, please. Then I apply this animation to each of them individually. That actually didn't take that much time. It would have taken a lot of time if you did it by hand, though. What is it? What can I do for you?
I was going to see if I could get a good look at the ID thing to make sure I don't need any like quotes or anything, like quotation marks.
Oh, yeah, I've thrown it. Okay. Here you go, folks. This is my gift to you. All right. I'm about to save you days of your life typing quotation marks. You don't need quotation marks unless the thing has a space in it or some other kind of delimiting character, right? There are no quotes here. It will still work because the tag itself does not contain a space. Yes?
So it'll go through fine for the validator?
Yeah. This is valid HTML. Yeah. Literally the only time you need this is if the thing contains a space. So, for example, when you're applying classes, if you apply multiple classes, the classes are separated by spaces. So if you sort of pull this apart, you can see, like, it's giving you a hint of what's binding where, right? That is not bound to here because there's a space here. Space is what separates attributes. So in this case, you have to enclose in quotes. But otherwise, you don't have to enclose in quotes. There, I just saved you time. So much time. There we go. So let's take a look at what this looks like. Oh. Well, you know, it's not quite shaking individually though, is it? Right? They're all still shaking as a unit. Here's how we fix it. There's one more parameter called, is it called offset? I think it's called offset. I know what I think I know, you know. No, it's not called offset.
Wait.
Look at all these ads. Delay, it's called delay, pardon me. So it delays the beginning of the animation, right? The problem, the reason they're all oscillating as one, is because, of course, they're all starting at the exact same time and running through the same animation. So despite the fact that they've been defined separately, they're still doing the exact same thing at the exact same time. It doesn't look like you've done anything, right? So, how's that? How do you like them biscuits? And you know, if you want to do like silly things like typewriter effects and that sort of thing, this is another way to do that, right? Now let me see if let me see if it would be space. It's supposed to gobble white space, so maybe this will work. Get it all on one line. No. There you go. That's what you want.
Oh, you removed
Yeah, I removed display block. It works nicely for divs, but not spans. So, all right. Any questions? All right. See you on Thursday. For Java, if you have Java with me, that is. Oh, and I'll publish the code for all of you. Okay. There is a class coming into this room, so
Okay.
I might have to see you in the hall about it.
Okay.
Good day.
أنا لو خليت 4 مواد هيكون نفس السعر. والله 2162. So the 4 مواد ب 5 مواد.
Yeah.
Mine isn't working for some reason.
Yes, there's a class coming into this room, I believe. So if everybody could just, I'll take a quick look, but
Yeah, take a quick look.
still recording? It is still recording. There we